So, welcome back to Double D Do Business. I'm Dave Evans and you are?
Debbie Halls-Evans.
You told me off last week, didn't you, for not doing that quite right. So is that better?
Yeah, because an intro should be an intro. It should be...
Oh, wow, that is thought of the day from Debbie. We're on to a flyer. An intro should be an intro. So, Debbie, who have we got with us today?
Well, why don't you introduce first?
Okay, so Andrea, do you want to introduce who you are and where you're from?
It's a bit like Blind Date, is it?
It is, yeah.
That's right, behind screen 3, we have.
Yeah, and I'm Andrea, Rainsford from Tamworth. No, I'm Andrea Rainsford from SEO Angel.
I bought a car from Tamworth.
Did you?
Yeah, the one you didn't like.
I always remember Tamworth as just the big long stretch of road, which is a wide road.
Sorry.
But you can only go 40 on it.
Did you say broad?
Road.
That's very Boltonian. Yeah.
I do actually live on that great big long stretch of road. To be fair.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
I
But
always remember that bit, Tamworth.
there is quite a little bit more to it. I have to say that for any Tamworthians listening.
That's not the best PR post for
Is there such a thing?
Tamworth.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah, Tamworth is just a long bit of stretch of road. I'm sure all the businesses that live there are going to be extremely happy with that description.
And we've just heard for the first time a Tamworthian.
A Tamworthian.
That's a great phrase, isn't it? You see, Tamworth for me was initially an association because of that extra bit of motorway that you built for yourselves for us to drive up and down really legally.
No, it's very kind of us. Do you not think? Yeah.
Well, I used it a lot, actually. Have you used it a lot? I've had 2 passes during my time, but yeah, Tamworth. My highlight was a BMW X6 that Debbie hated.
Oh, I really did. Yeah.
You see, it was a sign at the time.
I think Tamworth's known for a number of things. I think most recently we were featured in a documentary for the most obese people in the country.
Wow.
And also the number of murders.
Murders?
So yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be flooding here after this podcast.
I think we may need to navigate away from Tamworth and its fabulous features. And Andrea, I want to pick your brains because I loved your intro. And you said you run a business called SEO Angel. Now I love working on my computer. I love building websites. I love doing all the things that go with it. Yet I still don't know. And Dave, by the way, when anybody talks computers, we have a software business, and he goes, and he kind of falls. He loses. You do
in Technoland, yeah.
Are you going to nod off then while I'm talking?
No, SEO gets my interest because it's like Debbie. It's like a dark art. Whereas tech building is like, if you're building me software, all I want to know is,
does it work?
Will you make it do that?
Yeah.
And can I take you at your word? I don't want to know how you did it.
Honestly, our conversations when we are having the reviews are hilarious because you can just see Dave's at one point we go, right, we need to move on. Dave's glazed over. Next topic. So anyway, talk to us about, and can you summarise what SEO is and isn't?
I think it's really easy to summarise what SEO is. Basically, it makes your business visible. It's as simple as that. I never talk about SEO, and I don't mention it any of my content. And the reason for that is because the question that I get asked day in, day out is what is SEO? And I think when you talk to people about visibility and you talk about their business visibility and about being found, then people understand exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. When you start talking about SEO, people do glaze over and they're like, well, I really don't understand what it is. So all of my content, and when I'm talking to people and talking to my clients, it's basically talking to them about their business visibility. And SEO's changed quite a lot over the years. A lot of people still speak to me about, well, I've just got to stuff my website and my content with keywords. Yeah. It's moved on so much more than that these days. I mean, if you think about it, LinkedIn is a search engine in its own right. So the way that I and the social media platforms are actually search engines in their own right. So when I'm working with a business, it can't simply be about their website, because you've got the tone and the message and the marketing throughout your business and the foundations have got to be solid before you put any content, any message, any tone out there. So I work with them to basically look at their business foundations first and foremost, and then we look at who their ideal client is, who they're trying to attract, how they're trying to attract them, and then we look at the technical side of SEO. That is the very last thing that we look at, because from my point of view, visibility's got to be is the core of your business foundations, really.
And what's really interesting about what you've just said is, because what we work with our clients with is we build that framework. So we build and talk to them and coach them through and navigate them through, you know, what actually is their business. Because what we've discovered very early on is a lot of people, because we work with small, medium enterprises across the States and actually more corporate. I always fascinate myself that we have a different business model.
Well, I was curious about the interlude from your comment and that bit in between the filler. It's quite impressive. So what was you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that our business framework is a conversation, which is very similar to what Andrea was saying, is about getting people to understand what their business is. Because a lot of people can't define what their business is. A lot of people don't even know what their target audience is. So they're surely then that by having that conversation, like you've just said, is actually the last conversation you're having with them is the optimization element. You're actually having a really wealthy conversation around, so what do you do? Because a lot of people have set up businesses, small, medium enterprises mostly, on a passion or something that they really like doing. Doesn't mean they've got any business savvy, does it?
That's true. And I like already that we're throwing out a big question to people listening today, which is around, is your business visible? And if there is one super useful thing from Tamworth, it is your business.
Yep.
That's right.
It?
And visibility in your, because you've added there, so there's several factors. So one, you've got to understand your business first. Two, it's not just our website. And I do think people see SEO website, that's it, that's all I have to do. And what you've just highlighted there is actually, because of the advancements, every element of anything, now correct me as well, because I might be overstepping that. So any content, shut up, me, not you, Andrea can correct me, not you. So any content we put out, and I'm using us as an example because I know you've actually done some work for us as well. So in regards to is any content we put out has the same impact on this visibility, irrespective whether it's on website or not.
It's got yeah, exactly, the tone and the message that and the target audience that you're trying to attract has got to be the same, wherever you put it out. So when I'm talking to them about website content, it's not about website content anymore. It's about your social media content. It's about your press releases. It's even about the 60 seconds when you stand up in networking. It's the message and the tone has got to be exactly the same all across, because I'm working with a client at the moment, and she trains. She coaches executives that are having leadership problems, they're having issues with their performance targets, that kind of thing. And I happened to notice that she'd put a post out on social media for a £99 power hour with a completely different audience to what we were targeting in the web content. And I sent her a quick email and pulled her up and said, but you can't be targeting one thing on your social media and something else on your web content. And she said, but I need a plan. And I said, yeah, we'll get into the plan, but in the meantime we've got to have one tone, one message, one client and one product. And I think that a lot of the clients that I work with, because obviously I'm dealing with a lot of small and micro businesses at the moment, is that they hate the concept of one client, one product. Yeah. They feel as though they're narrowing their target audience by just focusing on one product and one ideal client. They feel as though that's going to reduce their sales, that's going to reduce their visibility, and it's going to have an impact on their sales in the long run. And then what I actually prove to them with the process that I take them through, that what I actually do is going to increase their sales, increase their engagement, increase their conversion, and the process does work, and I've done it time and time again. But I think what people where they get a little bit twitchy is that SEO is a long game, it's not a quick game.
Yeah. And is that not what business is, though? I think this is.
It is, but let's go back to another second really important point, and that is, I remember years ago working with some of our corporate monsters, big clients, and hearing somebody use a phrase that seemed to frustrate the director, and that was keeping your focus narrow and less wide. And less wide was perceived, and we're in a different metaphor here, right? It was perceived as well, if I can do all these other things as well, I've got more influence. I can make a big difference. I can get noticed. I can get a promotion. But actually what the advice coming from the top was, no, go narrow, get really great at it, and you'll stand out 100 times more. So
Exactly.
there's really great advice there. And actually just us, we were ironically talking about that this morning, weren't we? Around some of the challenges that we have, and we've been around for 15 years, and we do so many things exceptionally well. There is more than one thing, but having the courage to lead with, no, we want to talk to that person solving that problem and drive that product takes courage, and you've got to trust your SEO optimizer.
But you've just made up a word, haven't you?
Why not?
I sound actually like a search engine search. I actually sound like a piece of software.
There you go. Look at that.
So yeah, I totally agree. And the biggest problem that I have with every client that I work with at the moment is they just don't want to do it. They can't see past, what we're trying to achieve. They can't see, the end result. And I think that I always say to them, you've got to trust me. I've been doing this a long time, because I've only been in tech 11 years this year, but I worked in business development for 17 years before that, and that's why I always say to them, you've got to trust me, because I have got the business development knowledge and I've got the business development experience. And I think that's what makes my service offering a little bit more unique, is because normal SEO agencies probably won't be able to take you through all of the BD stuff and take you through the foundation. So that's why my offering's a little bit different. And I always say to them when I start out, this is the way we're going to do it. If it's not the right fit for you, then I'm not the right fit for you, because I don't change the process and I don't change how I work based on the client's wishes. If they're the right fit for me, then they're the right fit for me.
And do you know what? I love that, and I've actually just written about that on our social media today, believe it or not. Because I wrote about David, the industry that we're in, coaching and consulting, as you know, can be full of a lot of ego. It can be full of a lot of hot air. There's some amazing people out there. There's also some people that really shouldn't be in this industry. And I think you've got to say and do and live and act. And I think, you've just applied that to your whole business model and your style, and the way that you deliver it is, well, this is what I do. I know it works. I'm doing what I say I do. Therefore, if you want to use that, and I think it's brave, but to me, I just see it as belief in this is my business. Yeah,
we do live in an industry that sometimes, going back to what you said a minute ago, can feel a bit pretend.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of it feels like that.
The coaching industry, as fabulous as it is, let's underpin this by saying something I was talking to somebody about a couple of months ago. The coaching industry, right, has most of the know-how to solve every problem there is on the earth, right? It doesn't, because a lot of the time it's besotted with pretending, which is you're expected to have a super state or a super mentality. And actually, where our worlds clash with yours is you only have to look at some of the biggest spending powerhouses on the internet today, and it's sycophantic. The multi-layered marketing, the buy this, it'll change your life, $97 and you're going to get everything you ever dreamt of. We're selling the wrong dreams. And I've been saying something this last week, which is a little bit facetious, which is there is no rainbow in front of you. It should only be when you look back.
That's right.
Thanks, Debbie.
When did you say that?
You haven't been listening.
I haven't been listening.
You haven't been listening, have you?
No.
I thought you made a note of that.
Just say that again, because I haven't. Andrea, I write down, right, when he says something really good, I write it down, and then
have you taken a note of that one? I mean, that's just a pearl, isn't it?
That is. So what is it?
There should never be rainbows in front of you. There should only be when you look back.
That's not what you said, though. It sounded better when you first said it.
Well, we'll have to check the recording.
Yeah. Well, we'll rewind and have another listen.
I like that. This is a good one.
Because that's the promise, right? So, someone starts a business. Let's say it's a trade, and you're in your local communities, your local networks, and then you get all these places to go and get clients. People like me looking for an electrician, and they provide that base. What's the salesperson going to say? We're going to get you 80 of these a year. And we were talking to our son-in-law, like saying, listen, don't believe them. right?
Tell them
you believe the result. And if the result is as good as what they say, you'll have a beer all day long. If it isn't, you're just selling to me. And to recognise, and that's where I started talking about rainbows last week, you know, the current situation in the world, because we're going to do a podcast and not talk about it, right, is also amplifying this. Everyone's promising rainbows. There aren't any. Right.
Well, and I also think your point, Andrew, about, well, I think there's two key points. One was about the long game. People, and I think right now, in this moment, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of fear. We're in a cash flow. And actually, this is the time to invest, to really consider what and how you're going to make your business better, make it more robust. We've got the opportunity to all streamline. You know, you have to be a little bit more realistic, I think, from a lot of other people's perspective. But it doesn't happen overnight. Nothing. And I think this is the naivety of some of the elements of life, influencers, etc. Suddenly this person pops up. I mean, candidly, on my social media feed, I don't have any influence because I wouldn't know if they were an influencer or not. But I think, you know, there is a part of society that expects this to be like click of the fingers, look, instantly I've now got 1 million followers. But that's not real life. It will happen in some instances, but it's so rare. You know, it's like people say, oh, look, this band's an overnight success, but they've been touring for years. Yeah,
but people just don't know. There's a lady that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. She's got about 25,000 followers. And I think I've got, as of today, I've got about 4K. And we had a conversation and she said, how do you get so much engagement and people liking and commenting on your posts, but you've only got a very small amount of followers? And that is really simple, because the people that are following me are interested in what I've got to say. I don't want the people that aren't interested in what I do. I don't want the people that, you know, don't want my help or advice, or, you know, they're not, if they don't fit with my personality. And I don't just want lots of empty numbers. I want people that are going to comment. I want people that are going to engage, that are interested. And I think that's why I don't think I'd be particularly happy with 50k of followers that weren't interested in a word, you know, I had to say, because I just think that's just completely empty numbers. And I think you need to build a network the slow way. You actually need to engage and connect with people that are interested in what you're putting out there. And I think that's the key thing. And most people that comment on my post, they're either pretty much my ideal client, or they would purchase one of my services. Not obviously might not be the one that I'm specifically targeting at that particular time, but they would be interested in one of the services that I offer. So I think that when you're an influencer, you know, what does that even mean?
Well, again, I think it is such a small percentage of the world that I think you can lose sight and lose track of what you want to achieve. Because I was thinking about this the other day, it fascinates me when you actually do surf the internet as such, and you see what is out there, and people are operating businesses, they're making enough money, they are surviving, they've got a lifestyle. You know, everybody's got different measures of success, which is integrally important, because if we all are the same, we'd be in a bad place. But it's also understanding that, what you're laughing at me for?
That was another filler moment, wasn't it?
No, because I wanted to say, no, it wasn't. I wanted to say that there is business for people if they want to go out there and seek it and find it, because there is an audience. It exists. Doesn't matter, you know, we could say the coaching and consulting industry is saturated with people, from massive conglomerates to one-man bands, you know, solopreneurs. But it doesn't mean that there isn't an audience for those people that can allow them to sustain a healthy, successful business.
I doubt very much if they've all got the same ideal client, because I work with at least 3 coaches at the moment, and they've all got completely different ideal clients. So the work that we're doing is completely different. So there is no conflict of interest, because they're not working in the same industry and they're not targeting the same person. So, and I think that's important to notice, that you know, one of my biggest tips at the moment is that you've got to keep showing up. You've got, if you don't do anything else, then you don't. There's a lot of businesses that I've spoken to that really are face-to-face, like one of my friends actually runs an axe throwing business. There's not really very much she can do apart from keep showing up, keep telling people about, she can sell gift vouchers for when they open again, because obviously people are all having birthdays, anniversaries, etc. But there are some businesses that they really cannot do anything else at the moment. But I said to her, you've still got to show up every day. You've got lots and lots of video material showing people exactly what your business is about, what you do, how much fun people have. You've got testimonials, reviews, and then when we are allowed, you know, to start socialising again, it'll be the first thing on people's list, because you've been visible, you've been showing people how much fun, and you know, what are we going to want to do when this is all over? We're going to want fun, we're going to want to enjoy ourselves again. So I don't agree with just because you know, that saying that people aren't buying. I don't agree with that. I don't, you know, people can still be buying vouchers. I certainly have bought vouchers for people for their presents when they get out of lockdown. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating dilemma, because let's explore just that showing up bit, because what I've been asked for years by different people, Dave, you should do your own mindset thing, you should, you know, do all kinds of stuff. Very broad intentionally.
That is very broad.
It is.
What does that actually mean? What stuff?
Well, actually, to be specific, dealing with real issues live, one time hit fix. Like remember that lady that you asked me to do a phobia cure via Zoom?
Spiders, yeah.
Yeah, so just whatever's in front of me, just to do that live. But I personally find some of the platforms out there that we have to show up on exhausting. You start to look, you start to watch, you don't get totally distracted, because I haven't got that level of I must go and watch all this stuff. I just go, really, I actually have a dislike for it. So, but I also have to respect it. So there's a real fine line for me, because I find myself checking out going, not somebody else saying my mindset should be right. You know, because then I've got a dilemma going, I should have done it first of all, right? And I still haven't, right? And then the second thing is, everyone's also saying it. So you're like, it's a big can of soup. So that's why I think your advice about ideal client, staying in your narrow focus and going after that and being dedicated to that and playing the longer strategy, I think is really vital today.
And I think you don't have to show up every platform either, do you? Because you know, where's your ideal client hanging out? Where, you know, are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? You don't need to show up on all of them. I think it's a fallacy that you've got to have a presence on all of them. I think, you know, my main focus is LinkedIn, because that's, you know, where I get the majority of my work from, next to my website. So I'm not going to put the effort into Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, because I want a life outside of my business, and I'm not going to sit on social media for several hours a day. I've got a set amount of time that I allocate to social media, and that's it. Because as Debbie knows, my life is incredibly precious, and it's, you know, it's a miracle that I am where I am today. So the one thing that I'm desperately not going to do is to start giving my precious time away to pointless activity that you know, like you've said, I don't want to sit there scrolling and reading stuff that's not important, that isn't relevant to my business. And I think there has to be a social aspect to what you put out, and there is a social aspect to my content, because people need to get to know who I am, and they need to get to know whether I'm their fit, whether they like me, whether they can work with me. And I think it's okay that a lot of the people that might be reading my content will think she's not for me, because you've got to repel people, because you want to attract the right people. And I think that's an important thing to note, is that you don't want everybody to love you only want the right people to.
I love that. You have to repel people for them to be able to make the right choices. I love that.
Debbie's been trying to repel me for years.
Not working, is it?
Not working, no.
I think Ian might say that he's been trying to get rid of me for years, but I just keep clinging on. I'm not too sure. He must be doing something wrong.
Right, so I want to touch on, I'm not going to go massively into this, because I do think people should connect with you. Your story is incredible, and I always see your story as a lesson in balance and
totally.
Being able to make really big decisions in adversity and continued adversity as well, because I think people see somebody go through something and they think, oh look, they've got through it and it's over, and actually it's continuous. You know, it's like anything, it's either grief or whatever. So give us because I think it really that nice flow of coming from business development in big corporate and big world, and then what happened?
Well, I was. I think it's important to note that there was always a driver inside of me, and it's still there. I have to keep it under control. That I always had to be fitter, stronger, cleverer, you know, whatever it was. I always had to, there was always a driver in me that I was always on to the next thing. If I lost weight, then I was moving on to something else. I've got to be fitter, stronger, whatever. And I think my business became my identity. My job became my identity. And it took up all of my life. I think I used to work an 8-hour week. I don't think I had much life outside of it. And it's really, really hard now to think back about what life was like back then. It's really strange, as if it happened to somebody else. And I work for I'm not going to name them, but I work for a large accountancy firm in corporate finance. And I had a great job, and I was headhunted to work for a law firm as in a BD managerial job. And I think I'd only been in the job about 6 months. And I took a holiday, and sadly I was diagnosed with ME when I came back off the holiday. And a lot of people will think that ME is a bit of a non-illness, that you're just a bit tired. For me, it basically took my life. It took everything that I had. And the first few years I fought against it, because it has so much bad press. Because people just think that you're diagnosed with ME when they haven't got anything better. They can't give you a diagnosis. It's been given so much discrimination over the years. It's unbelievable. And most people that know me on LinkedIn or social media will tell you that they didn't know that I had ME. This is probably the first they're going to hear about it, because I just do not talk about it at all because of the stigma that's attached to it. Sadly, I thought I could beat it. Like everything else in my life, I thought, yeah, I can beat this. The doctors are all raving lunatics. They haven't got a clue. The doctor said to me, you won't go back to work, but I didn't believe him. We got married the following year. And then the year after that, I'd carried on pushing for about 18 months, 2 years. And then Ian came home one day and found me unconscious. I spent 6 months in hospital. I had a stroke in hospital. I lost the use of my left-hand side. I wasn't able to do anything for myself. And it basically took me 15 years to get my life back. And that's it in a nutshell.
So you're singing to the converted choir, if there's such a thing. Because I know Debs has probably given you a clue that when I was 15 years old, I got diagnosed with ME too. And it was in my life till I was just past 19.
And people do mock it, Andrew. You're so right. Do, yeah. They go, oh, really? That's not true.
And I still remember driving down to Glasgow, right, in a clapped out car, and from the Highlands of Scotland, going to see a specialist whose conclusion was, I don't really know what to do.
Exactly.
And then, but I remember as a kid going, this is brilliant, motivated. But there's something about it that you do have to fight with it, because it takes it all away. And my heart goes out to you. There's two of us who did Ironman together in 2015, particularly. Ian Harrison, who's also a personal trainer today, and he had ME too, and we both completed Ironman in the same race. So it's nice afterwards to say, who said we couldn't do that? But you wrestle with it to your peril, because in my experience, Andrea, when you fight with this as a human, you think it's about balance, being determined, being resilient, pushing past the boundaries. But actually, I found every time I did that, it kicked me right back where I'm further back.
That's right.
And I think I was lucky. I was lucky that I had it when I was young. I think if I had it today, it'd be a different strategy altogether.
My mum thinks that I've had it since I was a child. If you spoke to my mother, she would tell you that I've had it since I was a child. My view is she's probably right, and then I just pushed the boundaries far too much, and it brought me to my knees. I did a talk at a ladies networking group recently. It's only been about 10 months since I've started actually coming out of the house, and I think there was 5 ladies came forward to talk to me, and 4 of them started to cry and said they'd all been diagnosed with ME. And this one lady said, I'm looking at you and I'm breaking my body just like you broke yours. And she just sat and sobbed on my shoulder and said, you've actually made me realise that I've got to go home and I've got to take care of myself. She said, because I didn't think it could get any worse. She said, but the fact that you ended up having a stroke has just made me realise that it can get much, much worse, and I've got to go home and take care of myself. And I thought to myself, I've actually managed to do some good. I've actually managed to stand up and help people understand that it isn't a non-illness, that if I hadn't have kept pushing, I wouldn't be where I am today. But there's no point looking back and saying, you know, I could have done things differently, because, you know, that isn't going to solve anything. But I think it's important to realise that it is a proper illness. And if you, like you said, if you keep kicking it, it's going to kick you. And I have to be really careful even now. I'm nowhere near as poorly as I was. And I'm really proud of where I've got to. But even now, Ian will see the signs before I do. And he'll start poking me. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing? And I hate swearing on your podcast, but he'll say to me, that's a bullshit job. Why are you doing it? Yeah. And he'll just shout from the kitchen. He'll be like, I can do that. Why do you do bullshit jobs? He says to me, because he is amazing, and he pretty much does everything so that I can just basically live a life. So I've got the energy to do other things. So I am very lucky that I've got him, because I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, especially the ladies that spoke to me at the meeting, they're not getting the support because their partners don't understand.
Yeah, because I guess from a female perspective as well, in a relationship, it must be so hard, because if the guy doesn't know, or your partner in general doesn't know how to respond, or has rejection issues in this, it can cause chaos. I mean,
totally.
A couple of things about it there. Can you spell myalgic encephalitis?
No chance. Excuse me, I've had a stroke. I struggle to spell Andrea some days.
Perfect. Because that was that's the funny bit for me, was I always remember going, who named this? And then the alternative was what?
Some nutter.
And yuppie flu.
Oh, yuppie flu and things like that.
Yeah. So, but I love the fact that you are listening, and anybody listening to this. We talk about fuel gauges, don't we, Debbie, in our business, and you've got to pay attention. You know, as growing up, one of the most annoying things a parent could say is pay attention to your body. I've been in races, right, where you've got nothing but no choice but to listen to your body, because your body's telling you straight how it's feeling. You know, stories for another time. But nonetheless, you still got to choose to hear it. And I think it's incredible that you've had the chance to reposition yourself in your life, and really importantly, give back. Because here's what I know, Andrea, is people want to listen. People are looking for hope. And it's not the thousands that you influence, it's the one that surprises you are usually the most rewarding. And I think it's been really brave of you to share that today, about speaking at the network about it and beginning to lift the veil, because we're surrounded by stories of how you should be, and actually we need to hear more about just be in the moment you're in. You know, you are the sum of your story in that moment in time.
That's right. And
you just don't know who is listening.
You don't know who's listening, and I think that I think there's been about 10 people that have been diagnosed with ME, and they've all said the same thing to me. They're just completely lost, because they don't know what life looks like anymore, because they feel as though they're not the same person. They can't do the same job, they can't do the same hobbies and interests, they can't interact with their partner in the same way. And I think that it's the most awful illness. I hate it with a passion. But I don't actually ever think why me anymore, because I know why me, because I've always had this drive to be something else, to be something better, and it took me to look it straight in the eye and actually figure out what on earth was I trying to strive for. And it wasn't until I actually analysed that and actually looked it in the eye that I can now actually be comfortable with who I am, and I don't need to strive to be anything else anymore. Sometimes I'll get a little bit carried away and I start, toddling off down the road, but I always seem to really manage to pull myself back these days, which I'm incredibly proud of. But I know that there's only one person I don't like the word blame, there's only one person to be held accountable for what happened, and that's me, because I made myself sick. And you know, I've taken responsibility for it, and that's the only point you can move on, is when you've actually accepted it, what's happened, and then you can move forward. I don't think I'd be sitting here now with a successful business if I hadn't have accepted it. But
100%.
And I think one of the things that I find really fascinating, and I know we've connected on a personal level, which is lovely for me anyway, is you know, both of us don't look for other people to inspire us, realise that we've got to do it ourselves. And I think this whole life lesson about self-awareness, self-accountability, you know, who am I think they're massive things. But do you know what? Because I'm going to do a really brilliant spin now. You're going to be so proud of me.
Can't wait.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Making ourselves visible as well as our businesses. Boom! That was brilliant by me.
It was, but if anyone did get a chance to watch it, which we've
Dave seems a little bit underwhelmed there.
Yeah, I'm like your physiology was like it was on slow play.
I was getting really excited about
Yeah.
it.
I thought it was exceptional.
Thanks, Andrea. I knew you would.
The thing is, though, Debbie, here's the reason why. Right? Inspiration is local. That's why.
Yeah.
Inspiration takes place around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by
I
bringing your story, bringing your business to the table, and being visible, others can see, hear, experience it, take what they like from it. And because that's the other thing, right? A year ago today, we were going to the GQ Heroes thing down at Soho Farms, and that's a social conversation, right? But I was looking at some of the photos this morning, because I've done this ridiculous 10-day share a photo on Facebook, and actually
although I shared about 40
it started off with 1, but when I got to number 7, I thought, you know, screw it, I'm breaking the formula, I'm going to share loads of photos that I like.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the GQ pictures today, and just to show anyone who's been following those pictures some of the great people we got to see, ranging from artists right the way through to Ricky Gervais, right, who's a talented
everybody knows who he is.
yeah,
Carry on.
absolutely. But they all had one thing in common, right? And I loved it. And we came away going, this is really awesome. They didn't care one bit about what anyone else thought about their work. If they were happy, they were happy. And how many of us just do that better every single day? And it starts there, coming back to your point, right? In being accountable to yourself, for yourself, for how you got to where you are. And then at the same time, not giving yourself a kicking in the shins about it either, and just going, do you know what? I am where I am today, and what I do next, I'm going to give you everything I've got in the right way for me. And I think that's the opportunity, I think, and that's why I think it's great having you here with us on Double D Do Business, because let's recap that, Debbie. Be visible with your business. So making your business visible.
Come on, get your words out, love. Get your words out.
Digitally and online, right? And in your local communities. And then number 2, show up, be visible yourself. I think those
consistently.
Are,
I think it's the consistency, isn't it?
Consistency is the key word, and I think it's like anything in life, isn't it? You know, because of one of the things I didn't mention was that when I was recovering in my wheelchair, obviously I decided to go back to university, because that's an incredibly sane thing to do, isn't it, when you can't walk? I think I'll take myself off to uni. And I think Ian at that point actually thought about divorcing me, I'll be honest. He did it, or sectioning me. I can't quite, I don't know which one. But yeah, when I went back to university, and I'd always wanted a degree, and I didn't get one in my younger years, which is something that I always missed out on. But the only thing that got me through it and got me the certificate at the end was consistency. Yeah. I had to keep showing up every day. I had to keep learning. I'm not the best coder in the world. I'm not going to sit here and create you a piece of software, but I know how to do it. I know how to build a database. I know how I know how to do so many things. But I think the important thing to note was I didn't have a massive great plan. I didn't go into uni thinking that I'm going to set up this amazing business that's going to be successful. I didn't have a plan, and I think that I'm not really, most people that will tell you that have got successful businesses, they had a plan, they had a goal, And you do need a goal in life because you need something to work towards. My only goal was to make sure that my brain still works.
Yeah.
So I never set out with a massive plan to be where I am, and I think that I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud that it's different, because I'm not like every other SEO agency out there. And I think that when people come to work with me, they want to work with me. It's not necessarily, you know, what I do. It's about, you know, that I never sell to people, because we touched on this before. And you said that, you know, when people are selling, they're offering rainbows. I never sell to anybody, because my work speaks for itself. My content speaks for myself. The results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
If people want me, then they always come to me. I'll never ever drop sales emails. I never drop sales DMs, because it's just not what I'm about. And you know, Debbie knows that I was on the floor probably about 3 weeks ago now. The first week of lockdown, I lost all of my retainers bar one, and I did wonder how we were going to pay for the food, how we were going to keep a roof over my head.
Yeah.
And it's taken me 3 weeks, and my books are full as of this week. But that's just through consistently turning up every day.
And that's it. Yeah, that is the point, though, isn't it? Is knowing your audience, knowing your business, knowing what you are going to do, not the rest of the world, just you,
Exactly.
what you're going to do, and just going out there and getting it. And I think it's a really great message for anybody, either in startup right now or somebody who's going through an adverse situation. It's applicable to everything. So whether you're showing up to family, friends, relationships, or whether you're showing up for your business, it all has the same. You've got to be visible, and it's hard. We're not dismissing any of the difficulties or challenges, but I think it's a really great lesson, but also it's great to hear it in a really normal context, Andrea, which I think that's where we kind of have to hear these massive stories, but actually every day just being present, being visible, and doing what we need
Agreed.
to do.
And as we I guess bring this conversation to a pause in the podcast today, a couple of things. First of all, if you're somebody who's having a dream and a goal, what's that?
Nothing. I was going to say you're coughing and anyway,
Yeah,
doesn't matter. I've moved on.
Thanks, Debbie. If you're having a dream and you're coughing, that's probably not a good dream. You need to go and see a shrink. Anyway, thanks, Debbie. If you've still got a dream you want to go after in your life, you can start it today.
Yeah.
And let's go back to something mid-podcast. This is the best time to start anything, because I think the stakes are really low. And
Right.
you've got a bit of time. Do what Andrea did. Go and re-educate. Go and learn something different. Go and do whatever it takes, really, because it is your
If that's
story
what you want to do.
entirely, and it is up to you. And I think back in my life of how many times you've waited for things to happen, and you should have just done it yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a big lesson there. So Andrea, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you.
You know,
It's been a pleasure.
yeah, it's been lovely. If you're looking for optimization of your SEO, not just in Tamworth or from Tamworth, anywhere in the UK or even the world, then you must talk to this lady, because your business, not only will it succeed, you're also helping out a great cause at the same time in doing so. So, Debbie, any final words?
No, what's the great cause?
What's a great cause?
What's the great cause?
Any great cause, really, Debbie. In my statement.
In your statement. Oh, we've got lost in your statement.
No, the great cause is actually
Go to www.seoangel.com.
like-minded people working with someone who's come back like Andrea has. I think that cause is cause itself, isn't it? So you're making a difference all around. You get the results you want.
I got distracted.
You get a supplier that knows what it's like to deal with real adversity and cares, and a process that she will hold you to accountable to deliver for. What more do you want?
That was
That's
very
the
good. That
cause.
was excellent.
They don't like me holding them accountable, but I always say to them, don't mistake kindness for weakness.
Yes, indeed.
On that bombshell, Andrea, thank you for your time. Debbie, once again, thank you for being here on our co-hosted podcast. We have been Double D Do Business, every success with your learning.